How to make business travel successful. For 30 years, I've been traveling as a staff member, as an executive, as a member of an airline, and now as a startup founder. I've learned a lot about traveling, about how to make it more successful and more enjoyable. G'day, are you seeking to be a high-performance CEO or develop personal leadership and be a CEO of your own life? Then you've come to the right place, because we share real experiences from CEOs for you to learn from. And so you don't miss out, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications. Let's get into it. Several weeks ago, I was invited to a pitch event. Now, I'm always keen to introduce the company to interested parties and investors, so I was keen to go. Of course, it wasn't local to me. I'm based near New York in the United States. This event was in Bahrain in the Middle East, a country I'd never been to. In fact, I'd never even been to anywhere in the Middle East. So I had to determine whether it was really worthwhile. There were a few key factors that got me over the line. One was a trusted colleague of mine was also going, so there would be two of us, and he recommended that I go and felt that it was worthwhile to do so. He was someone also involved in capital raising, so I felt that was a good indication. The second thing was that, well, we're always trying to pitch and promote the business, and we may even pick up investment capital from this new region, this new part of the world. So another good reason to go. But there's two other reasons which I think are perhaps equally, in some cases, more important. They are exploring the geography. I had learned a lot about Dubai, the Middle East, and felt that I needed to go there to determine if there were opportunities. And thirdly, to meet new people, build new relationships. And as a CEO, you realize the importance in business of building relationships, opportunity to build new relationships whilst I was there. Those four criteria what got me over the line to begin the process of preparing for the travel. Now, when I'm traveling, I keep in mind three broad categories of things that need to be taken care of. Firstly, there's preparation. So these are the things you do before you travel. I have a list of those things that I'm going to get into. Your focus, so things that you do whilst you're on travel, what you're putting your energy and time into whilst you're traveling, and your health. And in health, there's three subcategories. There's looking after your body, physical side of your health. There's looking after your soul or your mindset, your happiness, and then there's the mind. In other words, how do you keep your mind active and healthy throughout the whole experience? Well, under preparation, there's 12 subcategories. The first one is getting support from your team. So as early as possible, you want to tell people that you're doing the travel and you're not going to be as available as you have been, and can they take on some of the duties whilst you're away, handing over responsibility, asking people to do those things where you won't be available. That's starting the process of supporting, so that whilst you're away, you're less stressed, and when you get back, you've got less to handle. Number two is research the location and the people. Now, for me, going to the Middle East, it was completely new, so I spent some time figuring out about Bahrain and figuring out about Dubai, the Middle East, and checking on things like my visa, where it would be safe to go, where it's not safe, what the culture was like, and so forth. So understanding a little bit about a new location really helps give you some context for what you're getting into. Plan the agenda as practically as possible. I aim to have a very strict set of days organized in the early part of the trip. So in this particular trip, I was in Bahrain, and I had those days very planned out and had a completely open agenda and not even a hotel booked for the remaining 7 days, which worked out really well because whilst I was there, organised to go to Dubai and have meetings in Dubai, and then came back to Bahrain and caught my flights home. But you want to have that agenda figured out. You want to know who you're meeting, where you're going. It's got to be figured out. Number four, in this case, I had to prepare my pitch material. Now, if you're going into business meetings, you want to prepare for those meetings. Now, for the pitching, I had prepared a 10-minute pitch, which I practiced many times. Probably up to 20 times I practiced it before I went, and I fed all those back into the actual pitch deck and worked with my marketing manager to get that right. And then I found out later on that it was actually only 6 minutes, so I had to trim that down again. Practicing and preparing for what you're presenting, key to getting ready for your travel. Number 6, have people meet you there. So unfortunately, the day that I was about to travel, my colleague pulled out, but luckily he'd introduced me to a couple of other people. So I knew that there were at least some people there, and I tried to arrange ahead of time to meet those. That gave me not only a little bit of comfort, but also a point of contact. If something went wrong, I could call them and I could ask them for help. A big deal when you go into a country and a place you don't know. Number 7, arrange times and places. So this is part of the detailed planning, but you need to get down to specifics about where you're going to be at what times. And I actually create a little diary for all the times and places that I'm going to be there. I do it in my calendar, and I also make separate notes. Number 8, have an agenda. What am I going there for? Who am I meeting? When am I meeting them there? Have that all planned out. Number 9 is prepare your home. For me, my wife needed to know that there were certain things that I was handing off to her, putting the bin out, how to keep the house safe, what things needed to be done before I left, what bills perhaps needed to be paid, getting the house ready to be away for a period of time. Number 10, this is just putting time aside to get ready. It actually took me a whole weekend. I had the flight on Sunday night and I was working from Friday night right through. I was sleeping, of course, but I spent all my waking hours getting ready, packing, preparing my samples, preparing the pitch deck, getting last minute travel arrangements. Give yourself plenty of time to get all that ready. If you don't need that time, then you can go and have free time and do something else. But I certainly needed it on that particular trip. Number 11 is test your hardware. So in my case, we're taking the Hawkeye hardware. I needed to get the batteries fired up, make sure I had the tools with me, but also making sure that they're working properly, and demonstrating the whole thing here on the desk so it would work when I was there. Number 12, of course, pack. And in fact, for me, it took me 2 hours to pack. I normally pride myself on being able to get out of the house in 15 minutes. It took me 2 hours to pack my bags. I had a lot of stuff to take, and I had to put enough time aside to do that. So that's all on preparations. Let's get into focus next. So whilst you're traveling, you need to be focused on the things that are going to give you the highest return on your invested time. Now, for me, that is meeting people, presenting, pitching, joining groups. Those are the real high payoff activities. We were there to pitch. I put all my energy into attending that pitch and doing the best possible pitch I could, making sure that I was there, I was ready, I was present, and I was giving the best possible chance of the company succeeding. So I put a lot of focus onto that. Number 2 is networking, but I think the focus of that is really listen carefully. Put some time and energy into listening to the people that want to tell you their story. The best way to be heard is to start listening. So networking for me, which was a very important part of what I did there, was to listen, and I had to put time and energy into that. If I felt that I was getting too tired to listen, I would take myself away, have a rest, or even go back to my room or take a seat and just be quiet for a little while, so that when I am networking, I am fully attentive and listening. I think destroying an early relationship can happen very easily if you don't listen to what other people are saying, and that's a key focus activity. Number 3 is reaching out to people. So I did that in the preparations. I had many people that I reached out to, but then when I was networking, I was introducing myself to as many people. I would cross the room because I saw somebody that I wanted to meet. And what was interesting in this particular event, I arrived a day early, which is another tip that I would give you. Why arrive a day early? Because if anything goes wrong with your travel plans and you need to get another flight, you can still make the event. I did not want to miss the pitch that I had to do. I made sure I was the day early. Well, that actually worked out really well. In the hotel lobby where the event was being conducted, there was a whole group of people milling around, and I wandered around myself, what's going on here? I sat down, I looked across at a few people, and they were wearing t-shirts with BNI on them. Now, BNI was the group that invited me here. So I thought, well, hang on a minute, all these people are here for BNI, maybe I should introduce myself. I crossed the floor, I reached out to someone with a BNI shirt, we became friends, we had multiple meetings, and he introduced me to multiple other people. So just that little opportunity that I took to reach out to people in an unfamiliar environment, and where I could have just simply walked back to my room and turned the TV on, just loitering around and just seeing what's going on here, and then reaching out to someone turned into something really quite valuable. So reaching out to people is number 3. Number 4, joining groups. D&I is very good at this because everyone gets a chance to speak and everyone is expected to listen. I joined 2 groups, one in Bahrain and one in Dubai, And they all got to know me, they got to know what I needed, and I got to know many of them, and I have contacts with them. In fact, because of those 2 BNI groups, I came away with more than 30 contacts, in addition to all the other contacts that I made through the networking. So joining groups is a very powerful activity whilst you're traveling. Number 5 is get to events early. What happens before an event is people are kind of settling in, they're getting a sense of the room and actually have time for you and time to listen before it gets really busy and noisy often. Getting to an event early gives you a chance to meet key people and learn a little bit about them and have them learn a little bit about you. It's a great networking opportunity that is often not taken advantage of. So the third key element to traveling successfully is looking after your health. And in health, there are 3 main aspects. The first one is about your physical health, right? Your body, right? And I have top 10 tips for that. Number 1 is to get a good seat on the airline. Now, if you can afford it and it's a long haul flight, then I would suggest upgrading to something where you can lie flat bed, something like that, or even premium economy. Or in some cases, I've taken 2 economy class seats, some way that you can get comfortable and get rested. A good seat is invaluable. I always choose window seats because I prefer to lean against the window and I have a little bit more privacy. I feel I'm less disturbed than I would be if I was on the aisle. I'm also quite broad-shouldered, but I often get knocked by people walking up and down the aisle. Number 2, getting good rest. Not as easy as it sounds when you're traveling across a time zone. I prioritize rest above many other things. Sometimes it's just not possible, but I do take time to rest, and I guess don't worry too much about optimizing my time while I'm away outside of those focus areas. If I have to sleep to catch up till midday, I'll do that. So I'll try to rest as much as I can on the flight, sleeping, because it is actually quite stressful on the body. You're in time zones, you're sleep deprived, sometimes you're eating the wrong foods, and you've got high altitudes to worry about. There's a lot of things going on, and rest is really the only way to remedy that. Number 3 is coping with jet lag. The tip that I've always used, and not always successfully, I have to admit, is to try to get into the time zone as early as possible. Now, in this case, I was traveling east, and that's always more difficult to adjust, much harder to get to sleep and much harder to wake up. On this last trip, I wasn't successful in adjusting my time clock until I really got back from the trip. So I was struggling to sleep until 3 and 4 in the morning and not able to get up. What I did do was I was effective in able to do quite a lot of work till 2 and 3 in the morning, which meant that the time wasn't being wasted. But sometimes I still needed to get up, in one case, get across town for a 6:30 chapter meeting. So if you can get into the time zone early and quickly, it does make the rest of the trip easier. One of the problems that I've often faced with jet lag is the 2nd and 3rd day, I actually feel nauseous and quite unwell. And I had that exact experience. In fact, whilst I was trying to pitch, I was almost running for the door to be sick. I wasn't sick, but I felt like I was going to be, just because the jet lag got so bad for me. Trying to manage that, I think there is some people that advocate using medication to sleep on the flight. I don't generally tend to do that. In extreme cases, I might resort to doing that. I haven't done that much in the past. I didn't do that in this case. Trying to get into the time zone is a really hard thing. I don't have a lot of advice for people other than to try and get as much rest as you can and try to get into the time zone as early as possible. Number 4, don't drink too much alcohol. Alcohol also dehydrates. It puts the body under more stress. It's very tempting if you're being offered alcohol for free to take it. But if you do so, do it in moderation to try and limit the fatigue and the problems you get with jet lag. I say walk a little, not too much. You don't want to do too much strenuous exercise, but certainly walking is helpful. And you find around the airports you have to walk. But I always take some time during the day to go for a walk in the local area every day to get some exercise, get the heart rate up. It helps with jet lag and general overall health. I avoid pools. A lot of nice hotels have pools. And I'd love to go swimming, and I love swimming, but I avoid them because I had a bad incident where I got a really bad ear infection from a pool that I used. If you really want to go swimming, I would suggest not putting your head under the water or maybe blocking your ears so that water doesn't get in, because hotel pools do have a lot of bacteria in them. They look clean, but they are often not. I tend to avoid swimming in pools. Avoid uncooked food. Now, you are traveling and you are in strange environment, and you may find that some of the food's different. I tend to stick to very standard, well-cooked food so that I don't have a stomach problem. I might take more risks when I'm at home because I know I can go home and recover. But when you're traveling, sometimes you've got to get on a flight, you've got to move around. Very, very unpleasant if you're not well. So I avoid uncooked foods. Hydrate. You're drinking water. Drinking water in and of itself sounds pretty obvious. For me, it doesn't work very well unless I take electrolytes as well. I don't retain water unless I take electrolytes. So I do both. I drink water and I take electrolytes. And that tends to help hydrate me, and I feel less fatigued, less tired, more able to cope with jet lag. Number 9, I take a backpack. Now, a lot of people use those trailer-long small bags. Now, I had a large bag which I had to put into the hold of the airplane, and I needed another bag to carry on. I used a backpack. I use a backpack because it makes you far more mobile. Trailing a little bag along behind you is convenient in a lot of ways, and it is easy. But if you have to move quickly through a crowd, a backpack is fantastic. It just sits on your shoulders and everything's there. I prefer the backpack, and I can pack a lot in there. I prefer that over a wheelie bag. Number 10, my final tip, is a travel jacket. This jacket here that I'm wearing is the jacket that I travel in. It has lots of pockets in it, so I can put stuff in. My passport, my phone, my wallet, my keys, all in the pockets. It's very easy to get it on off, go through security. When I'm on the flight, I sometimes take it over and put it over the top of me if I'm cold. It's just so versatile and practical. I think a jacket like this is ideal for traveling in. So that's top 10 tips on the body. We're going to move now on to the soul, or to nurturing and dealing with that. Put these things together in terms of perhaps enjoying a trip a little bit more. So I've got 4 tips. Number 1, use a hotel chain to book your hotels, or a hotel group, something that is giving you a good hotel which cares about its reputation. All the hotels that I had on this particular trip were great. I can put a link in the description. It's a group of hotels under one banner where they're trying to aspire to offer a great service. I was actually upgraded a couple of times. I was using my friend's platinum card, and I had really nice hotels and hotel rooms and a great experience. Treated better rooms and so on. The one hotel that I didn't book through this was an absolute nightmare, and probably one of the worst hotel experiences I've ever had in my life. Maybe another video about that, but the recommendation is to use a group of hotels or some kind of consortium of hotels to book your hotels through. Number 2, keeping an eye on the time and keep checking. One of the biggest sources of anxiety with traveling is time pressure. Time pressure to get to the airport, time pressure to get to the next thing. I try to reduce that by having a calculation of all the times that it's going to take. For example, to get from my home to the airport takes 2 hours. I know I need to be there 2 hours prior, but I'm going to add an hour's buffer. So 5 hours before my flight, I have to leave home. It seems like a ridiculous amount of time to be heading out, but I know that things can happen along the way. And if they do, I've got time to recover. In this last trip, there was heavy rainstorms. There was accidents on the highway. It took me more than an hour and a half to clear all through that, but I still had plenty of time to catch my flight. So keep an eye on the time and give yourself plenty of time would be tip number 2. Number 3, use the lounges. So lounges in airports can be very luxurious. They can be quieter. You can get some food and drink and relax. And that's a nice way to nurture yourself and create some happiness for yourself just by using one of the lounges. Number 4 is do a little tourism. And I use the word little very carefully because it's very easy to fall into the trap of going and exploring the whole city and staying out late and seeing this and seeing that. I carefully select a few things that I would like to do and do only those. I try to be mobile and walk because I want to be active. Doing a little bit of tourism gives me some context of joy around the travel and helps me to come home with some better stories and to learn a little bit about the culture. Don't do too much, do a little bit of tourism. So the fourth aspect of health is your mind, and I have 6 tips for that. Number 1, don't expect to do too much whilst on the move. I've always had expectations that I'll do this, this and this when I'm on the flight, and I get on there and I start doing it and I just have no motivation to do it and I flick to the movies. So don't expect too much, either in transit, whether you think you're going to do something on the bus or the transit lounge or the hotel, particularly when you're moving from point A to point B, don't expect to do too much. You can have a few things, but don't make them critical. Number 2, don't expect to do too much work on the plane specifically, because on the plane you have meals, you have alcohol, you have a comfortable seat, entertainment, and sleep. And then you're going to be at elevated altitude, as high as 8,000 feet, which means there's less oxygen for the brain, less ability to do good work. So I would avoid expectations of doing much work on the plane. Get to the airport early. This is to reduce anxiety. We've talked about this earlier. But I always find that if I'm at the airport and I have my boarding pass, my anxiety levels drop significantly. I feel like I'm now in the system. My bag's been checked. I've got my boarding pass. I'm now heading through the security gates. Once I'm through all of that, it's a sigh of relief. I've really just got time to wait. And why not just enjoy that time to wait? Go shopping, go to the lounges, do whatever you want to do. The opposite to that is getting there late and being totally stressed and think you're going to miss the flight. And I've had that experience too. So get there early, reduce the anxiety, and try to enjoy it a little bit. Number 4 for the mind is noise cancelling headsets. So I have the large ones which cut my ears completely. They work better and they drown out more sound than the smaller ones. And they have another big advantage is you're less likely to lose these. The little tiny ones can easily fall out of your ear, go down into the seat and get lost. In fact, on the way back, this is exactly what happened to a guy across the aisle. He dropped one of his miniature headsets and they'd gone under a seat and he was looking under mine for a long time. And I don't think he actually ever found them. So not the little ones, but the big ones, they work better. One problem with them is that you can't rest over on your side if you happen to be like to sleep on your side as I do. What I do in that case is often I have a pillow behind and I put my fist in front so I can still roll over on my side. Or I can prop myself up on some other things. Noise cancelling headsets help to reduce the stress, reduce the noise, the fatigue, the interruptions, and help you rest. Number 5, accept unavoidable expenses. I had to suffer the cost of getting a hire car from JFK Airport back to my home, and it cost me nearly $200, which was unfortunately an unavoidable expense. The only alternative that I had to get home was some kind of taxi or Uber, which would have been $300. So it was a lot of money, but there was no alternative. It was an unavoidable expense. A lot of the things that you do when you travel are unavoidable expenses. When I think about how much it's going to cost me, I add a little buffer on it. 10 grand is often a number that I use for such a big trip, and that includes my buffer. So it might be 8,000 plus a buffer. The buffer is there to deal with all those extra additional expenses. It's difficult when you run your own business, when you know that every dollar that's come into the company is through your own means. But you have to take that on when you travel. And I think that goes right back to the start. Why are you traveling, and making sure that you know the value that you're going to get out of that before you undertake it. Because there are those unavoidable expenses. Don't worry about them. You just have to absorb them and say that's the cost of doing business. Number 6, my 6th and last, and perhaps the most important one, and I'm ending on this one deliberately, and that is mindset. I hate travel. I say to myself, I hate travel. I don't like traveling. I want to be at home. I have the things that I like to do at home, my family, my projects, and I have a lot of work that needs to be done. Traveling takes me away from all those things. However, on this last trip, I took a different approach to the I hate travel mindset to this is an adventure. I'm going on an adventure. I'm going to discover things. There's going to be ups and downs, and it's all part of the experience of going on a journey. I found that adventurous mindset really helped me enjoy the trip, record things about the trip, learn from the trip, have an open mind, be more successful. So I hope that helps, and thanks for watching. A lot of